I was getting gas at Shell when I saw my fiancée run out of a car with her hair messed up. She said she was just getting coffee with a friend. When the guy stepped out of the car, zipping his pants. I always thought mornings were the safest time of day. The world hadn't woken up enough to start lying yet. People were still half asleep, fumbling with keys and coffee cups, not sharp enough to cause real damage. If someone had told me that one random morning at a Shell gas station would rip open my engagement, I would have laughed at them and kept filling the tank. But there I was, at 7:40 in the morning, standing next to pump number 6, watching my fiancée sprint out of the back seat of a gray sedan like she'd just escaped something. Her hair was tangled, sticking out in a way I'd never seen in the 4 years we'd been together. Her shirt looked like she'd put it on in a rush, twisted at the collar, the fabric bunched on one side. She wasn't wearing the jacket she'd left home with. She kept one hand pressed to her neck as if she was covering something. And the expression on her face, guilty shock mixed with a desperate attempt to pretend nothing happened, hit me harder than any punch could. For a moment, I honestly thought I was hallucinating. Maybe it wasn't her. Maybe the woman sprinting toward me with wide eyes and trembling hands wasn't the same person who had hugged me just an hour earlier before leaving the apartment. But she reached me, and she tried to smile. That sealed it. This was real. Arden, hey, you're early, she said, but her voice wavered like a bad recording. She didn't ask why I was there. She knew the answer. I was on my way to my cousin's engagement lunch across town and decided to stop for gas. The timing was pure coincidence. The kind of coincidence that exposes everything. I didn't say anything. I just looked at her shirt, then at the car she came out of. A few seconds later, the back door of that sedan opened again. A man stepped out, adjusting his belt and pulling down a wrinkled shirt that definitely hadn't been wrinkled when he put it on that morning. He froze when he saw me staring at him. I recognized him, not by name, but by face. I'd seen him once at Lara's office holiday dinner. He worked in her department. He was the guy she insisted she barely talked to. The one she always said was too annoying, too loud, too full of himself. Funny how women talk down the men they plan to cheat with. He recovered first, raised a casual hand. Morning. I didn't answer. Lara stepped between us like a shield. Arden, relax. I was getting coffee with Nora. He just gave me a ride. My fiancée made the kind of lie that collapses on its own weight within seconds. She didn't realize it yet, but she would. I looked at him again. His shoes were covered in dust, like he'd been walking around somewhere unfinished or dirty. I glanced at the ground behind the car and saw tire tracks leading from the car wash area behind the station, not from the main road. They hadn't just pulled in. They had been parked there. Secluded. Out of view. I didn't say a single word. Silence makes liars sweat faster. She tried again. Nora spilled coffee on me earlier. I changed in the car. It was just a mess. You're overthinking. That would have been a decent story if she hadn't switched her shirt inside out. If she hadn't left home wearing one jacket and come back without it. If she hadn't been running full speed like she expected me to already know the truth. Before I could respond, the door to the mini-mart swung open and a delivery guy pushed a dolly out. He nodded toward the sedan and said to the guy in a joking tone, "You two are still here? That car was bouncing earlier. Hope you didn't break the alignment." The air stopped. Even the wind seemed to pause. The guy, Jared, I remembered the name now, shot the delivery man a sharp look and muttered something. Lara's face drained of color. She grabbed my arm. "Let's go." That was the wrong thing to say. You don't tell someone to leave the scene of your own lie. But she pulled anyway, desperate to get me back into my car before the situation unraveled completely. I didn't budge. She knew exactly what that meant. The delivery guy shrugged and walked off. He didn't care. Why would he? People cheat. People lie. People get caught. That wasn't new. What was new was how quickly a normal day had turned into a slow-motion disaster. Lara looked like she wanted the ground to open up and swallow her. Not from remorse. I didn't see remorse. What I saw was fear. Not fear of losing me, but fear of losing control of a story she thought she could manage. "Let's talk in the car," she said quietly, almost whispering. "Please." I walked past her without answering and paid for gas inside. I needed a moment away from her. The cashier glanced up at me and then at Lara pacing outside. He didn't ask anything, but the way he looked told me he already understood what I was walking into. A stranger knew more about my morning than I did. When I came back out, Lara was standing with her arms folded, her breathing uneven. Jared had vanished, probably drove around to avoid another confrontation. The coward didn't even wait to see what would happen. We got into my car. She tried to hold my hand immediately. I moved it away. She flinched. "Arden, please listen. Nothing happened." He was giving me advice about. "That's enough," I said. "Calm. Too calm." She kept talking anyway, changing her story every few seconds. She went from just coffee to work talk, to my jacket ripped, to you wouldn't understand. Every lie tangled with the one before it until the whole thing looked like a net she kept wrapping around herself. Halfway home, she turned it on me. You're making assumptions. You always do this. You twist things. You act like you're some expert on what I do. You're overreacting. That was the moment I finally looked at her. I said nothing, but she saw something in my eyes that stopped her mid-sentence. When we got home, she rushed to the bedroom to change. I stayed in the living room. I heard drawers opening, clothes being shoved around, hangers clattering. She was scrambling. I didn't know why yet, but she was panicking in a way I hadn't seen before. Her steps were frantic, not emotional, strategic, like she was trying to hide evidence before I had time to notice it. Then her phone rang. She didn't answer it, but I saw the screen light up through the cracked bedroom door. Just initials. JM. I didn't need to guess. She returned minutes later wearing fresh clothes and acting like she had decided we were starting over from zero. She sat next to me, put her hand on my knee, and started explaining her morning again with a rehearsed tone. I interrupted. Call Nora. Her mouth stopped moving. What for? She asked. You said you were getting coffee with her. Her throat worked as she swallowed. She dialed. It rang. Then again. Nora picked up. She sounded tired and genuinely confused. I could hear her voice clearly enough that Laura couldn't manipulate the story mid-call. Nora, I said, leaning forward slightly. Were you with Laura this morning? A silence. 2 seconds. 3. No. I thought she was with you. Laura snatched the phone, hung up immediately, and stood up so fast the couch shook. She started yelling about boundaries, about how I was embarrassing her, about how trust works both ways. None of it matched the situation. None of it even attempted to sound real. She wasn't defending innocence. She was defending control. When she finally ran out of steam, she stormed into the kitchen and slammed her phone onto the counter hard enough to crack the screen protector. I stayed on the couch. She paced back and forth, muttering under her breath. Minutes passed. Eventually, she went into the spare room and closed the door. Quietly. No more slamming. That silence was worse than any yelling. Through the thin wall, I heard the faint tapping of her typing a long message. Then more typing. Then deleting. Then typing again. It went on for almost an hour. I knew who she was writing to. I didn't stop her. I didn't ask for explanations anymore. She fell asleep in that room. I lay on the couch staring at the ceiling, realizing the morning wasn't a one-off. It was the first visible crack of something much older, much deeper. Something she had been hiding with absolute confidence. By sunrise the next day, I knew the real story hadn't even begun yet. This was just the shell station. Just the starting gun. And she was already sprinting. The next morning, the apartment felt heavier than it should have. Not emotionally, physically. Like the air itself picked up weight overnight and decided to sit on my shoulders. Laura pretended everything was normal. She came out of the spare room wearing neatly ironed clothes, hair done, makeup flawless. Almost too flawless. The kind someone applies to erase traces of panic from the night before. She made coffee for herself. Not for me. That was new. Morning, she said casually, scrolling her cracked phone screen, her voice too bright. I responded, morning. No yelling. No accusations. Just two people pretending the floor under them wasn't cracking like old ice. She grabbed her keys. I have a meeting. Don't wait up. Another new thing. She usually told me exactly what meetings she had, what time she'd be back, what she planned afterward. Now her schedule was foggy. That fog wasn't random. Fog appears when someone wants you lost. The door closed behind her. Silence again. I didn't chase her. I didn't check her location. I didn't start questioning strangers for clues. I just let the clock run. People hiding something choke on their own timelines. By lunchtime, I got an idea. Neutral, calm, simple. If she wanted normalcy, I'd give her normalcy. I drove to her office with lunch, something I'd done a dozen times over the years. A basic kindness. Something that reveals nothing yet reveals everything. The moment I stepped inside, the atmosphere shifted. People went quiet. Heads turned. A receptionist who always greeted me with a laugh looked down fast. That told me more than any clue ever could. I asked if Laura was free. Her coworker Rafi walked by, froze, then forced a tight smile. Arden, hey. She's in a meeting. He wasn't lying, but he was uncomfortable. That discomfort vibrated in the air like static. Can you let her know I'm here with lunch? I asked. He hesitated, then nodded. Sure. He walked off. The receptionist watched him go with nervous eyes. Minutes later, Laura came out like a storm cloud in human form. What are you doing? She hissed, pulling me toward the corner. You can't just show up like this. This is my workplace. I brought lunch, I said plainly. Her eyes scanned the room, checking who watched us. She cared about appearances more than the truth. Her smile stretched thin as she spoke through clenched teeth. You're making me look unprofessional. She said nothing about the shell station. Nothing about the lies. Nothing about the inside-out shirt. Her priority was that I showed up unannounced. A woman nearby passed by without looking at us. But she listened. I could tell by the way her head tilted slightly. Laura noticed too and dragged me into a small conference room. "You're suffocating me," she snapped. "Showing up here is controlling. Invasive." The words were so out of place I almost laughed. "I brought sandwiches," I repeated. "That's all." She started pacing. "People here talk," she said. "They twist things. You shouldn't be here." I didn't respond. I let her talk herself in circles. Eventually, she grabbed her bag. "I'm taking early lunch," she announced, walking out before I could answer. We sat in my car, eating quietly. She kept checking her phone. Every minute. Sometimes every 30 seconds. She wasn't waiting for a work message. She was waiting for a specific one. From a specific person. Then a new thing happened. Her phone buzzed, and she panicked. Not subtly. She snatched it so quickly she dropped half her sandwich onto her lap. "Work," she claimed, unlocking the screen. But she angled it away so I couldn't see. I didn't ask to. If someone hides their screen like it contains state secrets, the last thing you need is proof. Their behavior is the confession. When I dropped her off, I noticed something else. A man across the parking lot, Milan, another coworker, staring at her with a mix of pity and judgment. He gave me the kind of nod men give when they know something you don't want to hear. I drove home. 30 minutes later, my phone rang. It was Nora. She didn't sound confused this time. She sounded shaken. "Can you meet me?" she asked. "Right now." That kind of tone snaps you upright. We met at a small cafe close to her apartment. She wasn't wearing makeup. Her hair was tied up lazily. She looked like someone who spent a night debating whether to stay quiet or tell the truth. She didn't waste time. "Arden, I owe you honesty." My stomach tightened. "What happened yesterday," she continued, "wasn't random. She's been lying about her meetups. For months. The coffee thing. That's not new. She's been using my name a lot." She looked away, ashamed. "She told me she didn't want you to think she was too social after work. She said it would stress you out." I believed her. Now I know why she kept using me as an excuse. The weight of her words sank in. Not because I hadn't suspected anything, but because someone else finally said it out loud. Nora sighed. "And that guy you saw? The one from her department? People at work talk. No one knows details, but the way they leave together during team outings isn't subtle." I exhaled slowly. "Why didn't you tell me earlier?" She toyed with her cup. "Because she's my friend. Because I wanted to believe she was just going through a phase. Because I thought you two were solid." She kept saying she had everything under control. Those last words hit hard. Everything under control. A liar's favorite belief. Then Nora added something that made my jaw tighten. She said, if things ever went bad with you, she had a backup plan. A backup plan. A cold, calculated phrase. Not emotional. Not impulsive. Strategic. Before I could respond, Nora leaned in. "Arden, she isn't treating this like a mistake. She's treating it like she's choosing between options. And that makes this worse." She was right. It did. When I got home, Laura was already there even though she never left work early. She was on the couch, sitting stiffly, scrolling her phone with a determined look. "Why did Nora call me?" she asked immediately. "What did you two talk about?" I didn't answer her question. I asked mine. "When's the trip?" She froze. "What trip?" she asked too quickly. "The one you accidentally mentioned yesterday. With couples. From work." She opened her mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. "We were planning a small getaway, okay? A few of us. A break from the stress. You weren't supposed to come." There it was. The foundation of hurt in a single sentence. "You weren't supposed to come." She tried to soften it. "Not because I don't want you there. I just didn't think you'd enjoy it." Her voice cracked. She knew it sounded wrong. "So who's going?" I asked. She listed names too fast, as if racing ahead of consequences. "Rafi, Milan, Ivy, some others." "And Jared," I said. Her face twitched. A tiny movement, but enough to confirm everything. "He might be," she whispered. "Might." People only whisper the word, might, when they know it's a lie but hope the softness hides it. She rubbed her forehead. "Arden, can we not do this tonight? Everything feels hostile. And you're making it worse. You keep pushing. You're interrogating me." "I asked about a trip," I said. "That's not interrogation." She stood up sharply. "Fine. Come. If you want to come, come. But don't blame me when you feel out of place." Translation, she didn't want me there. Not because it was a work bonding experience. Not because of chemistry. But because my presence threatened her other life. I nodded calmly. "I'm coming." She stared as if she didn't expect me to say it so quickly. "No arguments?" she asked. "No." Something inside her flickered. Panic? Frustration? Fear of exposure? She didn't say it. She didn't have to. The trip wasn't a harmless weekend. It was the stage where her double life lived comfortably, where she thought she held all the cards. By asserting that I was coming, I didn't flip the table. I simply sat at it. Part 2 ended with Laura pacing around the living room, typing aggressively, deleting, rewriting, typing again, all while pretending none of it mattered. But something changed in that moment. She wasn't just worried about getting caught. She was preparing for a weekend she no longer controlled. The weekend arrived with the kind of heaviness you feel before a storm. The sky wasn't dark, but the air had that strange pressure that warns you something is about to snap. Lara packed with mechanical precision, as though she was preparing for a trip she had trained for. I watched her from the doorway. She folded everything neatly except one shirt, the same shirt she wore at the Shell station. That one she shoved into the bottom of her bag without looking at it. We drove for an hour in near silence. Every mile felt like another layer of tension wrapping around the car. Lara put on cheerful music, then turned it off. She scrolled her phone repeatedly. When we got closer to the cabin, the roads narrowed, trees thickening on both sides like they were hiding something. The cabin stood on a hill above a lake, big enough for 8 people. 4 cars were already parked there. I recognized one immediately. Jared's. Lara saw me looking at it and tried to act unfazed. He's part of the team. Of course he's here. Her tone didn't match the words. We walked inside. Laughter, music, warmth, the kind of atmosphere meant to disguise tension. Rafi greeted me first, too warmly, like he was compensating for something. Milan waved from the kitchen. 2 other coworkers nodded politely. Then a tall woman with sharp eyes and dark hair tied in a braid stepped toward me. "I'm Ivy," she said. "Jared's girlfriend." She extended her hand with a steady grip and a calmness that didn't match her eyes. There was something behind them. Alertness, suspicion, calculation. The way she looked at Lara wasn't friendly. Not hostile. Something else. Something colder. Lara greeted her with forced enthusiasm. Ivy didn't hug back. From the start, Ivy and I fell into an unspoken alliance. Throughout the first hour, I noticed small things. Lara and Jared kept avoiding eye contact, but also avoiding not making eye contact. Rafi watched them with concern. Milan watched them with guilt. Ivy watched everyone. The first mini-confrontation happened during a group activity. Someone suggested a short walk to the lake. Everyone agreed. The trail was narrow, so we walked in a line. I was behind Lara. Jared was ahead of her. At one point, he slowed down and Lara sped up just enough for them to whisper something. I stepped closer. She stiffened immediately. They separated without turning around. I didn't say a word, but my presence changed the air around us. Ivy noticed. She fell into step beside me. "You saw that," she said quietly. "I did." She nodded once, as if confirming suspicion she already had. We reached the lake. People took pictures, skipped stones, joked. Pretending. Always pretending. That's when the second twist started taking shape. Ivy stood next to me, arms crossed, eyes on Lara and Jared. "She's not the first," she murmured. I turned to her. "What do you mean?" She didn't look away from them. "Jared has a pattern. He tells me he's loyal, committed, but he gets this look when he finds someone new to chase. He used to hide it well. He doesn't anymore." She finally looked at me. "I saw a message from someone last week. Initials matched hers." She didn't need to say Lara's name. "How sure are you?" I asked. "Sure enough to stop sleeping well," she answered. The wind rippled across the lake. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was unraveling alone. Later, back at the cabin, everyone sat around the living room playing a board game. Laughter was loud, but nervous. People drank wine faster than usual. Lara kept glancing at her phone, waiting for something. Jared kept glancing toward the hallway, as if waiting for a moment to slip away. Mid-game, Lara excused herself to freshen up. Too fast, too eager, too badly acted. She disappeared down the hallway. 5 minutes passed. 8, 10. Ivy sat still, eyes on the hallway. She didn't blink. Finally, I stood up. No dramatic speech. No accusation. Just 3 quiet words. "I'll check something." Rafi's breath hitched. He knew. I walked down the hallway. A laundry room door stood slightly open. Their voices inside were low but sharp. "Why are you panicking?" a man whispered. "Jared." "Because he's watching me," Lara said through clenched teeth. "He's not supposed to be here. You said he never checks anything. He doesn't. That's why he's acting weird now. He saw us yesterday." My hand tightened on the doorknob. Jared lowered his voice further. "We'll talk later. Not now. Not here." "Then when?" Lara hissed. "I can't keep improvising." I stepped back silently, letting the door close on its own weight, making no sound. They never knew I was there. I didn't return to the group immediately. I stayed in the hallway until my heartbeat steadied. Then I walked back in, sat down at the table, and resumed playing as if nothing happened. Ivy's eyes followed me. She knew something shifted. 20 minutes later, another blow landed. Milan announced that dinner was almost ready and asked everyone to help with plates. As we gathered around, Lara emerged from the hallway with her hair smoother and her expression prepared. The laundry room lay sealed behind her, but tension followed her into the kitchen. We were all laying out plates when the second twist detonated fully. Rafi, who had been strangely quiet all day, suddenly muttered, "Maybe tonight they won't sneak off again." He said it too loudly. The room froze. Jared's jaw clenched. Lara's eyes widened. Rafi's gaze flicked to me, then away, as if he didn't mean to say it out loud. But once words escape, they don't return. "What did you say?" Ivy asked sharply. Rafi swallowed hard. "Nothing. Forget it." But Ivy wasn't letting him off. "No. Say it again." Rafi exhaled and rubbed his forehead. "There were rumors about them during the last work retreat. People saw them slip away. That's all." Silence. Absolute. Crushing. Exposing. Lara's voice broke through first. "That's ridiculous," she snapped, stepping forward. "You don't know what you're talking about." But her reaction wasn't indignation. It was panic layered with fury. Panic always speaks louder than words. Jared tried to deflect. "People gossip. Doesn't mean anything." But Ivy stepped closer. "Did you cheat on me?" she asked him plainly. "I won't repeat myself." He didn't answer. That was answer enough. Then the moment that cracked everything wide open arrived. The third twist, harsher than the others because it wasn't hearsay or theory. In the middle of this heated tension, Jared shouted, "It didn't mean anything, all right?" She came onto me. Everyone froze. Everyone. Lara turned white. Ivy's expression turned into stone. Rafi looked like he regretted breathing. Milan sank into his chair. I stood motionless, but every muscle in my body tightened. Jared realized what he'd said a second too late. His hand went over his mouth. He looked at Lara with pure regret. But the truth was already out. Lara lunged toward him. "Why would you say that in front of everyone? Are you insane?" Her voice shattered. It wasn't fear of losing Jared. It was fear of losing her narrative. Ivy stepped back, arms crossed tightly, as if she needed them to hold herself together. "So it's true," she said. "You two have been lying to all of us." Jared opened his mouth, but Ivy cut him off. "Don't talk." Lara turned on me next, as if trying to salvage anything she could. "Arden, I swear this isn't how it seems. He's twisting everything." I didn't respond. I didn't flinch. I didn't move. That scared her more than yelling ever could. The kitchen was too small for that kind of truth. People scattered to different corners, avoiding eye contact. Ivy stormed out to the porch. Rafi left to check the grill, where no grill existed. Milan suddenly remembered an urgent phone call. Lara stood in the center of the kitchen looking unmoored, as if the world she built so carefully had cracked open under her feet, and no one was holding the pieces. She turned away from me and hurried out of the cabin into the driveway. The door slammed. And just like that, the double life she crafted dropped out of the sky like a crashing plane. But the night wasn't done. Because outside, the next confrontation waited. And the truth wasn't finished speaking. I stood at the cabin doorway watching Lara disappear into the driveway's darkness. The cold air from outside pushed into the room like it was trying to clear out the tension left behind. Inside, nobody knew where to look. Everyone avoided each other like the truth was contagious. I stepped out after a minute. Not chasing her, just making sure she didn't decide to run into the woods out of panic. She was standing beside our car with her hands in her hair, pacing in shaky steps. Every few seconds, she glanced back toward the cabin as if expecting someone to follow her. "Not me. Jared, go back inside," she snapped without turning around. "I'm not here to fight," I said. She spun, eyes wild. "Then why are you staring at me like that? Like you're judging me." "I'm trying to understand," I answered. That word, understand, set her off. She threw her hands out. "There's nothing to understand." Rafi exaggerated. Jared twisted things. "Ivy hates me." You walked in already biased. It was impressive, really, the ability to blame every human on the property except herself. "You admitted nothing," I said, "even with everyone watching." "Because they ambushed me," she shouted. "Everything got blown up. You weren't supposed to hear any of that." That line cut through her anger. She realized what she said too late and covered her mouth. "Not supposed to hear it?" I repeated. She froze. Before she could answer, footsteps approached. Ivy stepped onto the porch. Her face looked calmer than before, but the calm that appears after fire. Controlled, sharp, almost detached. "I want my jacket," Ivy said flatly to Jared, who stood behind her in the doorway. "And the charger I left in your bag." Jared handed it to her. His hands shook. Lara turned toward him with desperate eyes. "Say something. Tell them what really happened." Jared looked between her and Ivy, torn. Then he made the smallest mistake of his night. He shook his head. Lara's shoulders fell. Not because he denied her, because he refused to keep playing the same story. She was losing her partner in the lie. Ivy stepped closer. "Before this trip, I planned to break up with you quietly. I didn't want drama. But tonight you gave me more honesty in 10 seconds than in the last year. So thanks for that clarity." She turned to leave. Jared grabbed her arm gently. "Ivy, please. Don't touch me, she said, pulling away. She walked past me without looking back. Jared stayed in the doorway, unable to choose a direction. Lara watched him with disbelief and fury mixing on her face. She started walking toward him like she needed to salvage something, anything. No, he said, stepping back. We're done. I'm not covering this. Not after tonight. That moment broke something in her completely. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just stood there with her mouth slightly open, like the ground vanished, and she was still deciding whether she should fall or pretend she wasn't standing on nothing. I walked past her, not to hurt her, not to comfort her, just to go inside. Inside, the cabin felt colder than the night outside. Rafi sat at the table rubbing his forehead. Milan was pretending to scroll his phone, but his legs shook nonstop. Nobody spoke for several minutes. The things unsaid were louder than anything we could have said out loud. After a while, Lara came in slowly, looking smaller somehow. She walked straight to our bedroom, without saying a word. The door clicked softly. No slam this time. I stayed in the living room until everyone drifted off, then found a blanket and slept on the couch. At some point in the night, Lara opened the door slightly. I heard her breathing. She didn't call my name. She just stood there. Then she closed it again. Morning came with stiff limbs and a hollow feeling like the cabin had been drained of oxygen. People avoided each other while packing. Lara stayed in the bedroom until the last moment. When she finally came out, she walked past everyone silently, her eyes red but her face controlled. Always controlled. The drive home felt like a car with no suspension. Every bump hit harder than the last. She didn't speak. Neither did I. At home, she rushed to the spare room again. After a while, I heard the sound of drawers opening, papers rustling. Something felt off. I walked down the hallway and found the room in disarray. Documents scattered. Her laptop open. A printed rental application sitting on the desk. Not for our apartment. For a new one. A one-bedroom. Signed by her. And someone else. Not Jared. Someone I didn't know. A name I'd never seen. A co-worker, probably. Someone she'd lined up as another option. Or maybe someone she never planned to keep but wanted as a fallback. The existence of that signed application hurt more than the Shell station, the laundry room, the whispers, or even Jared's confession. Because cheating is one thing. Planning an exit strategy while living with me? That was a different cruelty. When she walked in and saw me holding the papers, she went still. It's not what you think, she said automatically. That line again. What is it then? I asked. A mistake, she whispered. Mistakes don't require two signatures. Her lips parted, but no lie came out. She was running out of fabrications. Later that week, her parents invited us for dinner. Lara had clearly told them her own version of events because her mother's message included, "We should all talk calmly. There's been a misunderstanding." Perfect. A misunderstanding. I arrived with no intention of yelling or humiliating anyone. I wasn't interested in revenge. People who live double lives destroy themselves without outside help. We sat at the table. Lara's parents welcomed me nervously. Lara sat stiffly, chin raised, as if she could will her way back into control. Her father began. She explained there was confusion about a work outing. I placed the rental application on the table. Her parents stared at it. Then I placed the cabin event details. Then the list of dates she said she spent with Nora. Then the receipt from the boutique hotel I found on our shared card. Not detective work. Just information she left lying around like she never expected me to have eyes. Her mother's face shifted first, soft disappointment sinking into sharper disbelief. Her father's jaw flexed. He'd always seen Lara as someone incapable of deception. Reality didn't care about his beliefs. Lara spoke quickly. He's twisting everything. This is an attack. He's... Her phone lit up. A new message. From Jared. Everyone saw it. Nobody moved. Her father leaned back slowly. I think we're done pretending tonight. She stood up abruptly, knocking her chair back. You're all turning on me. Nobody understands. Her mother spoke gently but firmly. We understand. That's the problem. Lara looked at me as if searching for the version of me she used to manipulate, but he wasn't there anymore. She stormed out, leaving the front door open behind her. I closed it quietly. That was the moment something inside me settled. Not satisfaction. Not relief. Something calmer. Acceptance. The next morning, I packed a few bags and left the apartment. No theatrics. No big speech. She didn't try to stop me. Within a week, consequences followed naturally. She lost her job after HR discovered she'd violated workplace relationship rules. Jared broke up with her officially. Ivy blocked both of them. Nora apologized again and again for staying quiet too long. The lease she tried to open behind my back collapsed, leaving her with penalties. I found a new apartment. Smaller than ours, but quiet. Clean. Honest. Months later, I stopped at that same Shell station for gas. The car wash was open, water misting in the air. A gray sedan parked near the pumps. but not the same one. Different people, different lives, nothing to do with me. I filled the tank, paid, and drove off without thinking twice. Not because I healed. Healing isn't a landmark, it's a quiet change in direction. I left the past sitting behind that gas station and walked into a future with less noise. The truth didn't need revenge. It didn't need drama. It didn't need grand gestures. It simply needed daylight. And once it appeared, everything she built collapsed under its own weight.